Good morning, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome Prabuddhaprana ji, very well known to all of us, senior nun of Sri Sarada Math. She'll be speaking this morning on the origins of Sri Sarada Math of the Ramakrishna order. So it should be something very interesting. And Mataji will be here for another 2 weeks plus. And she'll participate in the retreat panel group next time also. So we're very happy she's here with us, and I will request Mataji to come and speak to us.
Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadguru Pada Padme Tayosritva Paramami Muguru. What I have to tell you today is a bit of history. I was always afraid of history because it seems so vast. I never had a handle on it. But now I have discovered that it's his story, the story of the creator of all this drama. And in drama, there is often tragedy. But tragedy sometimes spurs a great change, a new path. And that is what I want to talk to you about today. This story starts in Kasipur, when Sri Ramakrishna, in his last illness, has gathered his disciples around him, and they're serving him day and night and practicing spiritual disciplines, trying their best to realize something of their spiritual ideal before the master will pass away. The intensity of the situation you can imagine. And among these young men was Narendra. Narendra, chief of these disciples, was struggling hard to realize the highest truth. And one day there was a breakthrough, and he entered into the highest Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But it didn't last. He was brought down so quickly. He had just a taste of that bliss. And he came in front of Sri Ramakrishna, and the master told him, well, you had only a taste, but I am locking it up and keeping the key until you have finished my work. And he also at that time transmitted to Narendra a tremendous power that he felt entering him and energizing him. And Sri Ramakrishna told him, with this power, I have become a mere beggar, a fakir. I am nothing now. You will do great things in the world with this power. And so Sri Ramakrishna soon passed away after that, and the disciples were held together mainly by Narendra. He was put in charge of them, and they first stayed in a monastery in a dilapidated, so-called haunted house in Baranagar. That was their first mutt. Now, many of them started wandering throughout India on pilgrimage, trying to realize their ideal. And Swami Narendra, still then Narendra, also went traveling the length and breadth of India and visiting many places of pilgrimage. At last, he went to Almora, where the ideal place seemed to be where he could immerse himself in meditation. See, once he had tasted that bliss and he couldn't leave it. No, he must try his best to realize that again. So he entered this cave on the top of a hill in Almora, where there's a tremendous, um, a tremendous energizing field, actually a magnetic field, which is rare on this earth. And he sat in a cave on Kasar Devi. Now there's a temple there. Can we show the slide? Yeah. This is the temple, but before, when Swami Vivekananda was there, then still Narendra, he didn't see any such temple. There was only the cave, which was in the shape of a womb, and so the cave itself was worshipped. And but he sat in the cave, hoping that he would be able to achieve his end, but then he was thwarted again. He then received a telegram from his family that his sister, his favorite sister, Jogendrabala, who is looking very much like Swamiji. She had those very big eyes, fair complexion. She was very talented, brilliant. And this, of course, pierced Swamiji's heart. And the reason Jogendrabala committed suicide was that she was married to a man who was working in a government office. And she had to live the kind of social life which was of tremendous distaste to her. She was actually a very pure soul and very spiritually inclined. And she had to attend all these parties with her husband, where they drank alcohol and there was so much frivolous talk. See, Sri Ramakrishna had specially blessed her once. When he visited their home, he visited Narendra's home, and there was a kirtan going on, and Sri Ramakrishna started to go into samadhi, hearing that wonderful kirtan, very inspiring. And so he was reeling, and some of the people there started shouting, fan him," and Narendra's mother ran and got a fan. She gave the fan in the hand of her daughter, Jogendrabala. She said, "You go and fan Sri Ramakrishna," and giving her the chance rather than doing it herself. So Yogendra then she started fanning Sri Ramakrishna, and he came out of his samadhi. He saw her standing in front of him. He said, "Oh, you are so pure. You have finished all your karma. All you are sinless. I want a drink of water. Will you bring me a drink of water?" Now, Sri Ramakrishna never asked anyone to get him a drink of water. He wouldn't touch food except by the purest of people. So when she gave him the water, he again blessed her that this is your last life. You have nothing to worry. But you see, her life was so unbearable to her. She wanted to live a spiritual life only, and the life she was living, married, having children also. Um, she just couldn't bear it. And one day she had an argument with her husband, and I can't go to any more parties. I just can't. And they argued for some time. She impulsively ran into the kitchen and ended her life. So this was so terrible for Swamiji that he could no longer pursue this ideal of meditating and going to places of pilgrimage. He soon uh, then he thought there must be something that can be done for women now. Women are the educators of the whole society, and the society rests on them. And in India, the women were absolutely trapped in this bind of having to marry, and um, they they couldn't go out of their homes. They would have to stay, especially Hindu women would mostly have to stay inside in the women's quarters. And if they went outside, they would have to have an escort. So then he then soon went to America in 1893, and at that time, after going to the Parliament of Religions, and he met so many American women who are well educated and very bold and capable of organizing and leading their own lives, that he thought that he must uh, free Indian women in this way. That what Americans had was the power of organization. So Swamiji fell in love with organization. He wanted to then organize his work, and um, he wrote in 1894 to Swami Shivananda, we must have a mutt for women first, mother and mother's daughters. And so we can understand that the idea began to take in his mind. And then the following year, 1895, he was, after lecturing for 2 years and gathering students, he took some of his students to a retreat where he was invited in Thousand Islands. And in Thousand Island Park, he initiated into brahmacharya and sannyasa some American disciples. He hoped to make, he said, he would manufacture some yogis among these students, and they would carry on his work in the future. And he said at that time that uh, um, Vedanta would not take in America until Americans themselves began to teach. And so he asked one of his brahmacharini disciples, Miss Waldo, to go and teach, and she gave talks on Vedanta. And he told Sister Christine, who came to him from Detroit and joined that group, that she had a future for of his work in India, that um, um, someday she would be able to join his work in India. But she was teaching, and unfortunately, her father had passed away. So she was the sole support of her family of 6 sisters and her mother, and she couldn't leave at that time. She left much later, and in that same year, 1895, Swamiji then went to England, and he met Sister Nivedita, another educationist. Now, he saw in Nivedita even a more capable person to educate women. She was a headmistress of a school. She was in touch with many intellectuals in London and the leader of a group of intellectuals. So he said that she was a real lioness, and would so very soon in 1898, this Sister Nivedita, Margaret Noble, she followed Vivekananda to India. Then the plan was that she would eventually start a school. But in 1898 also, some other American disciples went to India to help Swamiji in his work. Mrs. Oli Bull and Josephine MacLeod among them. And Charlotte Xavier had gone the year before to start a place in the Himalayas for training Eastern and Western disciples. And when Nivedita and these other 2 ladies, Mrs. Bull and Miss MacLeod, were there together, he thought he would teach them about India, and then only they would be able to love India and work for the cause of Indians. So he took them on a tour of, especially in the Himalayas, he took them to Kashmir. And when they were in Kashmir, they camped at first in a place which the Maharaja was offering Swamiji to start a mutt. He thought that he could get that land from the government and give it for the future mutt. An ideal place. I saw that place. It's on the bank of the river, and it's a large area with chinar trees, and a very ideal place. Excuse me. Throat trouble starts, huh? I think so. Now, they were very disappointed, though, when the Maharaja was not able to get that plot of land from the government. The government refused to give it. So anyway, they went on. I went on their tour, and when they went back to Kolkata, Sister Nivedita was going to start her school. Now, the school, she said, um, she had hoped would become a future women's convent, not only a school. But she would have to start with this experiment, and they got some property for the school in the area where the Holy Mother lived, and she was to be the inspiration of it. So the location was chosen in Bagh Bazaar near her residence. Well, that school, inaugurated by the Holy Mother, who blessed the school that the students would be ideal students. And it didn't last more than 6 months because Nivedita simply didn't have the funds. And so it was decided that the following year, in 1899, she would go to America on a lecture tour and try and collect funds for the school. Then she just barely succeeded in getting enough money to start the school again. And the following year, in 1899, she, rather in 19, rather it became 1902 by the time she was able to reopen the school. Now, by that time, Sister Christine was able to go to India because her mother passed away, and she had no longer the responsibility to look after her. And the sisters had grown up a bit, so they were capable of earning some money. So that Sister Christine was free because she had no money to come, but she was given the passage money by Mrs. Xavier, Swami Vivekananda's English disciple. And when she arrived, it was just a few months before Swamiji passed away. But still, she was able to make up her mind about joining the school. She was well fit for that because she had been a teacher for long years and was very much interested in the work. Um, she, when she joined the school, it was by that time 1903. And in 1903, she opened a new section of the school for adult women. And she could teach them handcrafts and other things. Of course, there were other classes for them. Yogin Ma, Holy Mother's companion, taught them some scriptural classes, and Swami Sarada taught some classes. So they all joined in to make that adult section a success. And some of the women found it difficult to attend the school because their husbands didn't like the idea that they would come out of the house. Just wasn't done that women would come out and go anywhere by themselves. They would always stay in the women's quarters in the house. So Sister Christine learned tailoring so that the women could make kurtas for their husbands. And they were pleased and allowed their wives to attend the school. And then Sister Christine was a much softer person than Nivedita. She learned some Bengali. She was able to communicate better with the women and the children. And it was thought that that maybe now that Christine was there, that Swami Saradananda who was then the secretary of Bellermut and was looking after the school also from a distance. Um, he had a talk with the sisters, Nivedita and Christine, about now Christine getting some training from Sarada Devi in spiritual life so that this could develop into a convent. Um, he said in a letter to Mrs. Boole that Christine is willing to work along that line, and it seemed talking like that, talking with her 2 days ago while I brought her over to the mud. Um, I have had talks with her about undertaking the women's work, and she is ready. I am now trying to secure, or rather rent, a house near the nearby where she might live with Sarada Devi and have the necessary training before undertaking any work on her own responsibility. The way is opening for it. And he also wrote to Sarah Bull, I have undertaken the women's work through your persuasion. You remember our talks in Cambridge. That was in 1896 and 7 when he was at Mrs. Bull's house. He said it was Sri Ramakrishna's idea and Swami Vivekananda's plan that they were carrying out. So then again, Sarah Bull made another trip to India. She stayed with Sister Nivedita and was present on November 2nd in 1903 when the Pura Stri Vibhag, the women's section, was inaugurated. Now, this actually, the reason that it was considered that Sister Christine would then take charge of the women's section and all was because Sister Nivedita became increasingly involved in the national movement. She was lecturing, writing, recruiting young people to join in the national movement. And her idea was that unless India was free, they wouldn't make enough progress. So she was working on that line and spending less time in the school. So much of it was left to Christine. But then in 1906, another woman came to the school who was a very capable teacher. Though she was only 16 or 17 years old, a Bengali woman who was a very charismatic personality. The students all loved her, and of course, there was no problem communicating with them. She was a great leader. She had a very high ideal, a spiritual ideal, and so she was a tremendous asset to the school. Now, Sister Nivedita had written about Sister Christine. The whole work for Indian women was taken up and organized by an American disciple, Sister Christine, and to her and her faithfulness and initiative alone, it owes its success up to the present. She is the Eastern woman and none. Christine is big enough to carry this thing by herself. The long strain and responsibility of her life makes her as strong as steel, and she is so self-reliant. But now, she wrote, Um, Christine also, when she worked in the school, she felt that she was fulfilling Swami Vivekananda's trust in her to guard and perfect the ideals that he had taught them. And she wrote, new values must be substituted for old. New purposes and aims must be brought into focus. For it was not merely a school which he had in mind, not an institution, but something much larger, something which cannot easily be labeled or defined, something which would make thousands and tens of thousands of institutions possible in the future. In short, it was to be an attempt to create the education of a new order. And in 1906, when Sudhira, the sister Sudhira came to the school, Nivedita wrote, Christine has a splendid colleague. Sister Sudhira had come at that age of 16 or 17. She was fully equipped for her work. She was able to demonstrate the life of a Hindu nun in a way that these Hindu women could understand. And thus she was able to inspire other young women to live such a life. Now, at about that time, soon after, I would say, uh, Sister Sudhira had a student who admired her very much, and her name was Parul. But Parul had been married, that is, engaged, matched marriage by the parents. And she hadn't yet gone to live with her husband at her in-laws' house. But she was becoming of age, and her parents were beginning to force her, urge her to go. Now it's time you go and join your husband. But she resisted. She wanted to live a spiritual life, just like her ideal teacher, Sister Sudhira. So, and she loved the school very much. She enjoyed her life in the school. That was her whole world. So she asked Sudhira to help her. What can I do? How can I get out of this dilemma? I don't want to live a married life. Um, isn't there any way? And Sudhira at last took the chance. She said, I'll help you to escape. So one night, she planned to meet Parul in the school building. That they fixed a time, and Parul's aunt, who was just a few years older than her, Prafula, unlocked the door of the house and let Parul out, and again locked the door. I had met that Prafula. I didn't know about her at that time. When I met her, I rode all around Varanasi with her in the rickshaw. The year that I went to join the mutt, before joining the mutt, I went to Varanasi, and she was my escort, taking me everywhere. And I told her that I wanted to join the mutt. She assured me, yes, yes, you can do it. So I remember her very well. Then Parul met Sudhira in the school, and Sudhira had to hide her from her parents. So she took her to her own village home. Excuse me. And eventually they had to go to many places of pilgrimage, keeping on hiding from the parents. But one time something happened and the parents found out where she was. So Sudhira asked her, and she thought she would be arrested, but she asked the parents then, "Oh well, then do you want to take her back home?" And the parents decided, no, we can see that she will only try to escape again. So no, there's no hope. So they gave up. Sorry. Anyway, eventually, the Holy Mother. Oh, trouble. Maybe I'll try these. My throat, this is old age. My throat doesn't last. Well, eventually, Parul learned nursing. Holy Mother approved of her learning nursing, and Golab, her companion. Oh, sorry, I just need a minute. So anyway, she did learn nursing, and with Holy Mother's approval. And Holy Mother said, well, she would be able to then look after us. And so she overrode anyone's objection of this Brahmin girl learning nursing. And this Parul became the nurse of Holy Mother right till the end of her life. and served not only Holy Mother, but also her companions, Golapma and Gopalima. Now, in 1920, the Holy Mother passed away, and at that time, Parul, of course, was with her, and she told Holy Mother, "Well, I want to go with you. I couldn't bear to live without you." And Holy Mother told her, "Oh, no, you cannot. You must stay and do my work. Then only, of course, in the end, you will come to me." Well, it turned out that Parul became eventually the first president of Sarada. But in the meantime, Swami Saradananda, after Parul, after Holy Mother passed away, Parul was then sent to Varanasi by Swami Saradananda. He gave her sannyas also, In fact, it was Yoginma, Holy Mother's companion, who suggested it to him. Why don't you give Paul a sannyasi? After all, is living the life of a sannyasini. So he gave her tantric sannyas. That she didn't do all the rituals of a Vedic sannyas at that time. And she went to Varanasi, and there she did tapasya for many, many years, from 1920, 21, I think, until um, until Sarada was started in 1954. And that time, by soon after Holy Mother died, Sister Sudhira also died in a train accident. She fell from a moving train. Sudhira also had, before she passed away, had done a lot of work in starting Nivedita schools in Bangladesh, what is now Bangladesh at that time, Comilla and other places. She opened schools, and their idea was that they would start many schools like that all over India. There was a group also of girls who took initiation from Holy Mother in Bangalore in 1911 when she went to Bangalore. And she also gave them brahmacharya, and they stayed with Holy Mother in Calcutta for some time and were trained also by Sister Sudhira for a couple of years. But then nothing happened with that. They didn't continue. And there was one opened in Chennai also by Swami Brahmananda, another effort for Sarada Mat. And the worship to inaugurate it was done by Sri Ramakrishna's nephew, Ramlal. But now, coming to Nivedita school, it wasn't until actually Swami Saradananda continued to keep up the school in the absence of Sister Christine, who had to come back to America to recoup her health in 1914. And the school again was looked after by Swami Saradananda. But there were other teachers, and so the school went on, but it had changed to some extent. Then it was not until 1946 that Ranu Devi, who later became Pravajika Mokshaprana, joined the school and was made the headmistress. And she was very young at that time, but she was told, she was advised that she should look upon all the students as little Saradas. So she liked that idea, and she stayed in the school for a couple of years as the headmistress until another woman came. That time she was Lakshmi. Lakshmi Devi was teaching in Varanasi, and she was teaching in the Theosophical school there, Theosophical college. And she used to go to the Ramakrishna mission in the home of service and attend the classes of the sadhus there. Her father had seen Sri Ramakrishna because when he was a student, Sri Ramakrishna visited his school And because he was looking for boys that he could attract. um, and when Lakshmi's father saw Sri Ramakrishna, he ran and made pranams to him, though he was a Brahmo. Brahmos, of course, they wouldn't bow to any sadhu. They believed in a formless um, God. So they didn't care for all these rituals and sadhus. But he did. And when she asked him, then why didn't you follow Sri Ramakrishna if you were so attracted to him? But he said no. That Keshav Sen was the one who attracted all of us, and many of Sri Ramakrishna's disciples were first attracted. But anyway, she was very eager to join, and she joined the school as a headmistress for many years. Then, do we have the picture of Shraddha Lakshmi later was Shraddha. She was the third president. Moksha became the second president. And of course, Bharati Prana became the first president because she was Holy Mother's disciple. In 1950s, they began to gather at Nivedita school. Swami Bireshwarnanda, it was who gathered all these people who were then dedicated workers of the Ramakrishna Mutt in various capacities, um, and asked them to go to the Vedanta school where they would live together, and eventually Bharati Prana, who was that Parul who was initiated by Swami Saradananda into sannyas earlier, she was asked to come and lead them in their spiritual life. She had all that while been doing tapasya in Varanasi. Now, all of these people who came to the Vedanta school at that time were extraordinary in some way. That Renu, who was Moksha, she had her parents were devotees. They brought her to the Panchavati when she was a baby, and she was always in her whole life attracted to the Panchavati. When she became the president of Sarada, she used to take groups of the new batch of brahmacharinis to the Panchavati every morning. They would go barefoot in the dark after Mangalarati and sit in the Panchavati for their meditation. And so I also knew her very well because I had even seen her as the vice president just after Bharati Prana passed away in 1973. And what impressed me about Moksha Banerjee is when she was even vice president, I saw her sitting in the steps of the old shrine with two japamalas in her hand. And she was sitting there. What an image it made in my mind, I can't forget. And then I didn't tell the story of Mukti Prana and it's already 12 o'clock. Uh, um, but Muktiprana was the first general secretary of the Mutt, and for a long time she was general secretary. It was she who um, fought hard for a women's Mutt. She wrote an article which was published and made a furor in Bellarmine that Indian women's right to sannyasa. And she argued that Indian women have a right to sannyasa, and the Bellarmine, it's time for them to start women's mutt. And she used to meet with Swami Madhavanandaji and um, others. She was a disciple of Swami Vireshwarananda, so and of Swami um, Virajananda, and so was Shraddha Banerjee. They so she this Mukti Banerjee was she had great organizing capacity. She had organized a very successful All India Women's Conference at the time of Holy Mother's centenary. And that impressed Bellarmine also, that now women are coming forward who are ready to live this life and capable also of running a convent. Uh, so uh, so Mukti Banerjee, she as a general secretary, she was very concerned. We could feel her concern for every member. She knew them inside and out. If anybody had any problems, she would find out what it was. She would really know all the members thoroughly. I remember her in the early morning when we all sat in the shrine together for meditation. She would walk up and down the rows of meditators, and if anybody was nodding at the least, she would give them a slap on the back. So she was a good disciplinarian. She looked after everyone's spiritual life also, saw that they were following all the rules and practicing spiritual disciplines, studying scriptures. She wouldn't let us rest in the afternoon. She would have a class at 2:30 every afternoon, make sure that we didn't have too much time to waste, that we would use that time for study. So everyone felt that she really loved them and cared about them. And so this was the beginning of the month, and there were these others I haven't discussed about Bijoli, who was an orphan, a Vidyaprana. She was one of the first eight members. She was an orphan and didn't have the education that she had hoped to have. She always wanted to study scriptures, and so she was constantly studying scriptures, Upanishads and all. And she learned several languages just from the novitiates in the mud. She would pick up languages, and she was absolutely desireless. If anyone offered her a gift, she would say, "What shall I do with it?" No, she had no desire at all. And who have I left out? Um, Diaprana. I could say something about Diapranaji. She um, she had been put on Holy Mother's lap when she was an infant by her mother, who offered her to Holy Mother. And Holy Mother told her mother, now you take her and look after her. but I will call her later. And she did. Later, she joined the mud. And that Diaphragm, she often taught us classes and remind us of our lineage from the most ancient sages. She would say, tell us when we were probationers, just new in the mud. She would say, well, and don't forget that you are from that line from Sanatan, and all these Vedic seers, and through Govindapada, Gaudapada, Shankaracharya, and then Totapuri, Sri Ramakrishna. You are descendants of that line, so we would identify with these great teachers. Um, um, and she also reinforced our sisterhood, our feeling of sisterly affection and care for one another. And then I have spoken about Shraddha Banerjee. Well, I had a lot of personal interaction with Shraddha Banerjee, who was Lakshmi. She very much encouraged me to write. Also, Mukti Banerjee, when I first joined the mud, Mukti Banerjee asked me to write an article, and then she continued to ask me to write other books and so on. And when she asked me to write the life of Mrs. Olibull, I had no interest in it, but she said, "Oh no, you must write it, and you have to write a proposal uh, where you have to study, get materials and so on, where you have to go." And the mutt gave me so much freedom at that time. I couldn't believe it. They gave me a ticket to go, a kind of round the world trip ticket, so that I could go to 5 different countries to do research. And they constantly encouraged me in so many ways. And then Shraddha Banerjee also saw that my books would be published. She got me in contact with the press and everything. So, and even when I started to write, she saw that I was typing manuscripts. There was no furniture in our rooms, so I didn't have a desk, but I had an old typewriter. That in those days, no computers, so I had an old typewriter, and I rolled up my bedding and put the typewriter on top of the bedding as my desk. And I would sit on the bed and type like that. and so Shraddha Banerjee, when she saw my first manuscript and it was published, then after that, a lot of furniture started coming to my room. So much furniture that there was hardly any room for me. I couldn't get my way around the room between the cot and the desk and the chairs and and file cabinets and whatnot. And so I had constant encouragement from them. And I should say also in spiritual life, of course, that they saw that we all did japa, especially on special days. So I was very fortunate that I knew all but the first president. I knew all the 8 sannyasinis. that are that whose pictures you see, and I rather knew them intimately. And in that way, I was very fortunate. Because now those who join the mutt, who do they see but us? So not much attraction there. So then I will conclude because I'm over time. I see. Um, there's something I could tell. Swami Swami Premeshananda used to write to Moksha Pranaji. There are many of his letters published. He wrote to her after the sannyasa of this first batch. I'm quoting it. Mother Renu, all of you will always be remembered in India, and your names will be written in golden letters in the history of womanhood. Do you realize the position you have in the history of the Ramakrishna movement? Sister Christine, that's the end of that quote. Sister Christine quoted Swami Vivekananda, who said, quote, "Give me a few men and women who are pure and selfless, and I shall shake the world. No man can do this work. It must be done by women alone." Christine wrote, "Out of it will grow a new race of supermen and superwomen, a new order." So they had high hopes for the women's mutt of the Ramakrishna order. I think we're over time, so I will stop here. No?
You can go as long as you want.
Oh,
So, Mother, can I ask?
okay. What will I tell you then? Um, um, if you have any questions, I can answer questions. Yes,
Mother, when did you actually join?
I actually joined in 76, but I first went in 73. I was sent to Sarada by Bharat Maharaj, who was the manager of the Belur Mutt at that time. What happened was I was staying in Belur Mutt for I think 11 days at that time, and every day I spent with Bharat Maharaj. I was so attracted to that sadhu, Holy Mother's disciple, and I just liked his personality, and I felt that I could talk to him. So I would go there in the morning after I finished my morning work. I would go and sit with him, and he never discouraged me. In fact, he encouraged me. People would come, and in groups or singly, they would make pranams to him, say a few words. He would inquire about them and their families, and then when they would leave, I would still be sitting there with him. He would ask his sevak to give me tea and rasagolas, and every time, so I felt encouraged to sit there. I never thought of getting up and going anywhere else. What is there in Belur Mutt? It's the sadhus who are there that attracted me. So. Um, uh, so that would go on the whole day long. I would go for lunch and then come back in the evening and sit with him. And people would come and go, and in between I would be having tea and rasagolas. And so one day he asked me, "Well, it's time for the arti. Won't you go to the arti?" I said, "Oh no, I'd rather sit here with you." But he didn't seem to mind it at all. And uh, um, so one day, some sannyasinis came from Sarada, a small group of sannyasinis. And they came in, they were huddled around Maharaj. I must have felt a bit envious that they were so intimate with him, talking to him. So instead of sitting in my seat like a lump on a log, as usual, I unknowingly stood up and pasted myself against the wall and stared at them. And as soon as they left, I sat down, and Maharaj asked me, "Well, are you going to join Sarada?" I said, "I had no such idea." "Well, what will your parents say if you stay in India?" And then I said, "Oh, they know I love India, and they're happy that I could come, but I'm sure they would not like me to stay." And then he said, "Well, I tell you what to tell your parents. You tell them that if you marry, then they will lose you. You know, you go to your husband. That's over. Then, but if you join the mud, it's not like that." Well, it didn't make much sense to an American girl, as it wouldn't have to an Indian girl. But I understood that he was encouraging me. Anyway, he told me then, "Oh, they're still outside. You go and tell them that you will go with them." And then I thought, okay, I go. I started out the door, and I saw, sure enough, they were huddled together, talking, not very far away. I thought, how am I going to approach them and tell them I'll go with them? What a nerve, you know? How could you do that? So I turned around and I came back and I told him I couldn't do that. Then he said, okay. That afternoon at 3 o'clock, a jeep pulled up outside the guest house to take me to Sarada. And that was the end of it. So that's more or less how I came to join the mud. Bharat Maharaj was my mentor. Yeah, every time I had any question, I wouldn't even ask in Sarada. I wouldn't ask anybody. I would go to him. No other question. I left out lots of things, but I wanted to tell something. I don't know what to tell first, and so it's not. I tried to do it historically, year by year, but couldn't fit everything.
So Sarada Vault was actually created in 1993.
Created what?
1993.
No. It was no. It was in a Mother Centenary year. Then the Bellarmine saw that these women are ready and capable. So the first members, these 8 sannyasinis, stayed in a house for some few months, doing intense tapasya in Entali in Calcutta. And a devotee gave his house for that. And before the mud property was bought, then the Beller Mud took the responsibility to get that property. And it just so happens that it was the nearest British mansion, one of these garden houses, nearest to the Kali temple. And they didn't know it at that time, but more recently we found out that Sri Ramakrishna visited that place many times when the Pandit Padmalochan was staying there. So it's interesting that he was there. His hand was in it. That's why I say it's his story.
So you can buy this book now
Hmm?
to read to read the history of Sarada Math?
You can.
Is the printer
There are
available?
books that have some of with articles. Not there's no actual book of history of Sarada. I think there was an attempt to bring one out, but I haven't seen it yet.
The life of Prabuddhaprana.
Yeah,
Goes
that
through all
has a
of it.
lot of the history.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Bharati Prana Smriti Katha in Bengali, and it's also in English. I think that's enough. It's 12:20. Helter skelter. You want me to get up?
Yeah.
Sorry for the cough.
No, that's okay. Well, I learned many things that I didn't know before. Yeah, especially about Swamiji's sister,
Oh,
and also that the Thakur went to their house. We don't have any real record of him going there.
yeah,
Other than that,
yeah.
yeah. So that was very, very interesting. The whole thing was very interesting. And on a personal note, I was the one who drove her to the airport along with her parents when she went to India to join. And if memory serves me correctly, I was the one who carried the typewriter to India.
Yes, I
Yes.
thought of that too. I should say.
So we go back a long way, the two of us. Yeah. Very good. Well, our great thanks. And I know that everyone really enjoyed it. Yes?
Curious,
Yeah.
Is that typewriter still there?
The typewriter.
Yeah, that old typewriter, I don't know if it still exists, but it was a kind of indestructible type. Huge metal thing. It must have been very heavy in your baggage.
Betty Robinson gave it.
Um,
And I had to carry all this camping equipment also.
I remember you.
A big
I
duffel
was
bag.
in Delhi, our Delhi center that time.
Yeah.
And he brought this thing. It was a huge
Duffel bag. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
huge duffel bag,
Yeah.
canvas duffel bag, if I
Yes,
remember.
yes,
And
yes,
it, and typewriter was one of the things in it.
yes.
Then there was camping equipment.
All camping
for
equipment for Swami, Jitanand.
Chitananda, yeah.
Okay. Let me make one announcement. I think you all know about our weekend retreat. Swami Kripa Mayanandaji, who is head of our Vedanta Society of Toronto, will be giving the retreat. And the topic it's based on a small book, Prashnotara Ratna Malika. It's attributed to Shankaracharya. Just very simple, straightforward questions about and answers about spiritual life. I think we should have copies here by then for everyone. Otherwise, it's available in PDF. You can just Google it and you can find it. The Swami will be here Thursday, so Friday night we'll just have satsang. We've canceled the gospel class, and then the actual retreat will begin 10 o'clock in the morning and on Saturday, and we'll go till Sunday afternoon. There's some flyers upstairs that you can get. And Saturday night, we have a musical concert with Suranjan Chaudhary. He's performed here, I think, twice before. Very, very good. He does both bhajans and a little bit of classical Hindustani music. So everyone is invited to attend this retreat. It should be very, very nice. And that will be next weekend. And one other small announcement, which is a big announcement. Our dear Puranji turns 89 today. That's his birthday. Yeah. So we wish him all the best. He's been a mainstay of our center for many, many years. He and Kusumji, and we're very, very happy. Hope that he maintains good health and continues to be active. Yeah, the Thakur's grace. Okay. And now we'll have a closing song, huh? Too late. Okay. So we'll offer refreshments to everyone now. And again, great thanks to Mataji for such an interesting presentation, and hope that she stays well and can keep coming back. Okay, thank you.